There we go. No, I'm not muted. Hi.
Hello.
So we can make this short and sweet if you want, or we can chit chat, but I've made a pile of changes to the tool and have some cool, exciting things to share.
Well,
how are you doing on this Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day? If I'm still allowed to call it that in this free country of ours.
I am just getting up to speed because it's Monday morning.
Yeah, me too. I was up way too late, and then I took a pill to help me sleep better, and then I slept way late against the pitter patter of rain. So I'm a little flat-footed right now, and caffeine is still soaking in. But how are you all doing? Hi, Jen.
Hello. I'm still getting caffeinated too, even though it's noon for me. So
Yeah, same. Like, so I am double fisting. I have a latte and tea. Yeah.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, you're caffeinated up.
Usually I do like the autistic thing, where I've got like 3 drinks, like one for caffeine, one for flavor, one for water. But right now it's only 2. I'm just gonna spend a minute making.
I think my feeling would be let's get through this.
All right, we can be brief and bright if you want, and then return time to people. Like, we don't need to belabor.
I mean, if you've got interesting learnings, I would like to hear them, but I don't know that we need to add more than that.
So, yeah, I woke up at 11 and I was like, oh no, I was gonna do notes, and
That's fine. So it looks like you've got a new tool.
It's the same tool. I just packed on it some more. So
Yeah.
I'm
Or
gonna finish this
more of the
TLDR.
tool. Okay.
Yes. This here. Okay. So I will share my screen and do this super fast. Now that I have notes and I don't have to type and talk at the same time. Okay. So when this tool started, it was just a little TypeScript thing that made some GraphQL queries, assuming perhaps naively that let me see. There. Perhaps assuming naively that SBOMs would be sitting happily in artifacts, all set to go. That, as we had talked about, is not the case. And I think someone here pointed me at that. Right. So this is all sitting in a my dash work in progress whip.
Yep.
Matt Young. I think it's funny every time. So I need to merge this PR. It's PR number 1, like initial development. And so what this does, in a nutshell, is it takes the GraphQL schema in SDL form, schema definition language, like the actual API schema definition. It uses tools from the guild, which is what's behind the GraphQL Foundation, to generate a typed TypeScript SDK for the queries that we make. Actually, let me do this. I'm going to share a different screen. Sorry. Share my actual editor because I could do it faster. So we basically have a GraphQL query that looks like this. That pulls. So when we started, I was like, I'm just going to pull all of the artifacts. And that's where we were 2 weeks ago. And I got this like big ball of JSON and I wrote some nasty TypeScript because I'm new at TypeScript that like printed out a visual table, just data exploration style. It turns out that very few, if any, SBOM artifacts are in release assets. There are all kinds of other things like SIGs and all kinds of other security metadata, but the release is not enough. So I said, okay, well, how do we make SBOMs if they're done in GitHub Actions at least? Granted, like things like Kubernetes and lots of other projects don't use GitHub Actions, but GitHub Actions have, a lot of the automation for a lot of CNCF projects. So let's pull some basic info and we're still pulling all of the releases. These type names, by the way, are a GraphQL thing that gives you the actual specific type of that object. So that if you have a union where, the sub-object might be any number of types, this helps you differentiate which types are which. But let's grab the workflows, meaning like, let's go grab all of the actual CI files as YAML. And go look for tools that are in people's automation that would generate SBOMs or do other things. And so with that simple query, I wrote some stuff that smartly can. All right, you can still see this, right?
Yep.
Right. So when you generate a typed SDK using CodeGen, you get back typed objects in TypeScript for all of the types that you're returning. You basically say, here are my queries, and here is the actual massive schema that's like 35,000 lines, right, of the entire GitHub API, generate a TypeScript SDK that just has in it the types that are returned from the query that I'm making. So in the TypeScript code, you've now got like rich typed, statically typed objects for all of the things that are returned, like releases, release assets, GitHub workflows, other attributes. I then wrote some generic stuff so that we can use it for other GraphQL schemas as well. But right now it's just focused on collecting data from GitHub to generate normalized tables. So
we're doing a bunch of GraphQL in order to fill out a SQL database, which is fine.
Yes. Okay. So I've now done that. Okay. And this is all in the last like half a week. I kind of just embraced DuckDB. I said, okay, I'm doing all this junk in TypeScript that's really better suited for either, pandas or polars, or really just we need a fast relational store that can give us better things than what I was doing. So if you run this yourself, it takes. I've got the full data set for the entire CNCF projects. For all of the repos that they call out in landscape.yaml. And then let me just go there. So all of these base tables here. So for example, all of the base releases that I was kind of munging around in TypeScript, I can now do here. All of the release assets. Sorry, my computer rebooted overnight. So basically, I've got the full 230 or so projects in SQL format, and so I make all of the base tables using that generic mechanism that just can say, oh, I have a rich type. Now let me introspect the types that are returned from the GraphQL query and make base fact tables. And then everything with an and aggregate tables, I start going through and say, okay, well, now that we have all this information, how do we find out what it is? So I started with, regular expressions and junk like that, but to not make you, all right. And I'll get to that in a second. Right. So I started going through and say, okay, well, what are the things we can find? We can look at file name patterns and other things in release assets. So that's what, if you see artifact here, this originally was a regular expression, but now that I've got DuckDB having all this database, all this data, I've added full text indexes so that we can do like better searches just in the raw, either, rather than like a regex for the file name. This FTS is full text search. FTS is a DuckDB extension. So now we can, start looking for interesting file names. But wait, there's more. In the artifacts, we can also kind of look through and look for common file names. And I could use some help when I merge this PR and start kind of digging into the data over the next week between now and the 22nd when I present this to tag security and compliance. We still do a couple of regexes here or there, but I started getting higher and higher hit rates, right? Not just simple regular expressions, but now I can actually look for patterns. And I did a quick survey of like what other supply chain related tools, whether they're container scanners or code scanners or SBOM generation tools exist. And I came up with this list of like 50 or 60 something different tools that we can find. And when in this column that says CI, that's looking through the workflow files. Again, right now in full text search mode, just looking for keywords like, do they run this? Do they run Twistlock? Do they run Trivy? And that didn't, again, this is a data exploration, and the idea is building a data set so we can fully automate going and finding SBOMs or providing people a mechanism to just tell us where they are. So I got all this implemented, and you can plow through the data. There's a bunch of stuff that it finds, and it works as designed. And then I kind of went through for all of these and kind of gave examples of like how we're looking for this. So this transitions from a TypeScript squishy using TypeScript to do data analysis, which was terrible, to set-based operations against a full text search index. The next step that I'm playing with this week is using the JSON plugin the DuckDB has to take the CI YAML files that define all of the GitHub actions, converting them to JSON, which is straightforward, and then being able to use structured JSON queries that pull out the individual CI steps versus just doing a full text search over the text of what's in them. Yes.
So I'm going to be the mean product manager here.
Yeah.
And say, this is interesting, and how does it get us closer to milestone 1?
Okay. So the whole point of this is how do we find SBOMs, right? Without doing a project by project walk. And it did find like a few projects, like one, I think, one or two that actually have SBOMs as release artifacts. The next thing I did is I said, okay, let me go back to here. And I went back to the landscape YAML, which has a whole bunch of stuff in it that's useful. One, you don't need to see all the SQL. I'm going to. Okay. The landscape YAML has a bunch of other metadata that I was ignoring. One is it has additional repos defined, and many, particularly of the sandbox and incubating projects, are leveraging that to provide additional repositories. So expanding the net, so to speak, of where are we looking in terms of what repos exist, that's a no-brainer. So I pull in the landscape YAML metadata as well. This also includes, critically, category and subcategory information, as well as Docker URLs, NPM package repositories, and a bunch of other metadata that will help us potentially spider out and sleuth out even more. Right, so all of that metadata now, as of yesterday or the day before, I forget, is now sitting there as well that we can, join again. So now we can start saying, okay, we have this core data set of like, here's all the things we know. We can look at how things are being built again in GitHub. We have a mechanism where people can make a PR to the landscape YAML, and there's a script that parses that YAML into the input format for this tool. So when somebody adds additional repos, for example, this tool would just pick it up. But at this point, to your point, we're probably going to have to go looking in package repositories and other places. I wanted to also be able to generate reports for next week that say, like, here's the tool usage around generating security artifacts, and we can slice and dice by the dimensions of, like, what sandbox, incubating, graduated, or areas of the landscape based on category and subcategory information and things like that. There's a bunch of documents that I put in the docs that are kind of like how stuff works and why some decisions were made, as well as some futures. For example, how do we use the JSON plugin and things like that. DuckDB, lastly, or I don't know if it's lastly, but towards the endedly, it has some really nice plugins around HTTPS file system. So for example, we can go validate URLs, or if we find links to things that look like SBOMs, we can go say, hey, what's there? Ways to interact with package managers, again, via HTTPS or HTTP. So we can start saying, okay, well, in this workflow, I see that we build Docker images, right? And then we can go, because now we know where those Docker URLs are, both from the metadata and from things that we discover, what's in those Docker images. Are there SBOMs there? But so far, I've been quite surprised that there's not more front and center, like obvious release assets or obvious, and I know that you're like grinning to yourself. I can see it, Evan, because you kind of called it, but now we have the data to show it. And also, since I'm using DuckDB, it was easy enough to expand it to just pull all of the repos for the CNCF. And then lastly, there's a little feature that I'll add that will, if we want to do the nuclear option, which is like for every project that publishes a URL, grab all the public repos from the entire org. Because, since we're doing set-based SQL operations and things, more rows is just more rows, and this is all actually quite tiny data. So that's kind of where the tool is now. It slurps down a whole bunch of stuff, and now I'm kind of wading through the data, going, where are SBOMs? I think we need to, and I'll also start reaching out to some projects from our list to get some pointers to further guide it. But the idea is with this base data set and some scripting, we should be able to write something that just kind of crawls and finds quite a lot of the stuff. And if we don't find a lot of SBOMs, we still have a really good understanding of what tools are being used in the ecosystem for what projects, and it's all done in an extensible way. So you can make a PR to a SQL script and that big table I showed you, and we can kind of, it makes it easy to expand and refine some of the patterns we're looking for and things like that. So that's the current status. There's docs and all kinds of stuff in it.
Jen had a question in chat.
Oh, I wasn't even looking at chat, and I'm going to start.
That's why I put up my hand to.
Could we use security insights to allow projects to declare whether inside? Yes, I think we could. I haven't looked at the security insights repo yet. I'm looking at it now.
Roughly, you create a .github security insights.yml file, and you put a bunch of pointers to stuff that it may be hard to otherwise just pick out of your repo.
Oh, yes, we can. So we already pulled the CLO monitor links other projects have in landscape YAML. And again, since we've got like a working, how do I process YAML pretty soon in a structured way, not just in a full text search way. Yes, we should be able to chase down that. So that might be a higher value target to go at in the short term to pull in the CLO monitor stuff.
We can obviously do this any number of ways. I would suggest that we probably want to get to, hey, it sounds like we've tried, get the SBOMs out of release assets.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a number or a fraction of projects where we find some SBOM from that.
It's less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Across the full CNCF, there's like 1 or 2 repos where people actually put SBOMs in a release asset.
Okay. So now we're trying the next thing. Do we have a target coverage that we feel is adequate?
A target coverage of like
if we say, hey, this mechanism, if we use this pattern or this collection of patterns, we find 40% of SBOMs for 40% of projects or 70% of projects. Like, do we have a number where we say, okay, it's time to move on to the next step?
I don't have a hard and fast number, but I would say certainly more than 1. What I'm hoping to find and what I expect to find is there's not that many ways to generate SBOMs, right? And most of the tools to generate them are now covered. So if people are generating them with GitHub Actions, at least, we should be able to find them. So I'm kind of hoping to find like classes of.
I have a couple stories for you that are sad, and at least one has been fixed, but maybe further challenges for you.
Yeah, I also look for things like, in really start, well, you can see on the table, but, keys and SIGs and Vex stuff and in Toto stuff.
So when we were working on Minder, we ship a client-side tool for interacting with the API.
What's Minder?
It's an OpenSSF project.
Okay, yeah.
But we started doing cosign signing, and we have in Toto signatures there. And the first several releases, we included the in Toto signature or the in Toto bundle and the signature. And we did not publish the key that we used for signing the signature.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning this.
And so you may in some cases find that people are doing the CI things, but that they have not successfully actually published the results of doing it.
Right.
And so they may be collecting an SBOM and then throwing it away.
Sure.
So just as a caution there. A similar case was the Spring security team apparently was signing all Spring release jars and then not publishing either the key or the signature.
So yeah, so I'm guessing I'm gonna find in the next few days, like now that I have this data as of a day or so ago, I'm gonna start finding things like, things are published, and things are built and then published to some some server, or some file store, right? And so then we can go chase those links and see what's there, or people are using these GitHub actions or these tools, and when they use those tools, the SBOMs land here. So I'm still, to your question about like what's critical mass, rather than like a number of repos, I would like to find like at least one, like, in a time boxed way. Like if we have to just go
Well,
to like human canvassing and cut bait, that's fine.
and that's why I'm
Um,
asking,
yeah.
at what point do we say this is good enough and move to the next step?
Yeah, so like I want to do the next layer of like, okay, just last night actually is when I went back to the CNCF landscape, which is always changing. I actually am doing everything from the JSON format for that. I'm sorry, the JSON schema. They publish a JSON schema for landscape YAML now. And then I started noticing, oh, there's all these other things. So for example, if we still don't find anything, we can spider out and like look at, are they publishing them as packages, or are they publishing them as OCI artifacts, which
Yes.
I would imagine many are. And so once those facilities are there, so that we can again like have an automated go see what's in the Docker repos that the project self declares. I think the security insights one and the CLO monitor data is probably the next most important thing, because it's already been curated. So thank you for that link. I was looking at the CLO monitor links and saying I should use these. Hey.
I just wanted to mention that Clo Monitor is currently on V1 of Security Insights. I think they're looking to go to V2, but
Okay.
anything that's supporting the baseline, the OSPF baseline, I think is already on V2. So I just wanted to point out.
So should I be looking at the Security Insights project itself? Is that what you're saying is V2 of Security Insights, or should I be looking for configuration files that live in the repos for the project itself? Like what's their model? Is it they have a centralized repository and people check their configs in, or do people kind of put their configs in repo for their own project and then?
It's in the repo for their own project. It's usually in the SourceForge folder.
Like GitHub.
Yeah, like .github, and then I think it's looking for all lowercase security -insights with a YAML extension, and so you could look there at every repo.
Okay.
Another convention is the .github special repository. There might be one there for the whole organization.
What's the .github special repository?
If you create a repository called .github,
yeah, that just has your community files into it. Like, so if you ever see someone or a repo that has like security files in it, but it doesn't have the security MD in it, that's usually coming from like the .github repo.
Oh, I see. So in their org, they've got a repo named.
They've got a repo named
not
.github,
a folder in a
it's
repo.
treated specially by GitHub.
Okay.
Things like actions as well.
Well, yeah, there's always a folder in a repo, but
you can also have a repo.
You're talking about a repo named .github.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, that's awesome. So both of those things are easy to wire into what I've already got.
That's also a way that you can customize the way you appear on GitHub.
Oh,
like your
cool.
README and stuff like that.
Oh, I didn't know that. I love learning new things every day. Yeah, a lot of the work I did over the weekend was actually to move away from a repo-based input file and analysis to a project-based, so that we can have like multiple repos for project and lots of other data. So now sort of the central fact table will be a project as a discrete entity.
As an additional exciting thing, GitHub provides you this notion of organizations to manage things, and some projects have multiple organizations.
Wait, you mean GitHub orgs?
GitHub orgs. Yes.
Oh, some projects have multiple orgs. Of course, Kubernetes does. Okay, I need to add that to my
Knative
data
does
model.
too.
Yeah, Argo also does, I believe.
Yeah.
I think they have two.
Mm-hmm.
Often it's between the core and the extensions, but
like OpenTelemetry will do the same thing in some cases as well.
Yeah.
Kubernetes, I'm sure, has multiple orgs. Okay, cool. I believe the data model should support that just fine. Because I kind of went with, I'm using name with owner actually. And then a project can just have a bunch of name with owners, org/repo. But I wanted to make it easy to have org-wide scanning. And if you want to run the tool yourself, I set it up with some defaults, and you can look in the package.json or the README. But the default is just to pull down the info for the entire CNCF based on the landscape YAML. And it, by default, I believe, batches 5 repos at a time and waits a second. I had to do a lot of playing around with like, how fast can I ask for data from GitHub without getting rate limited? But I could probably crank it up a little more, but I didn't want to toy with it. So like in a minute or two.
I was going to say, I can tell you how to crank it up a lot more if you need to.
Yeah, sure. There's already support for parallel requests.
You need a few friends.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So multiple Pats.
No, if you create a GitHub app,
yeah.
GitHub apps have higher rate limits than the individual user tokens.
Yeah, but don't they have to be enabled at org level, or do you mean make a
not for read API calls?
Oh, so I can make a GitHub app in like some random org and then use that as a
yes.
Okay, cool.
And if you can get multiple people to install it or install it on, multiple orgs, you can round robin between those tokens.
Oh, well, we're not there yet, but that's really good to know. I still say, well,
May have been useful in a past life when we were trying to scan large amounts of GitHub for stuff.
Yeah, I'll if I remember, I'll make a note to add it. But there's a great GitHub talk around how they measure query cost and complexity and all of that. And so I'm really just
we were mostly using the V3 API, so it was a simple one.
Cool. I was gonna say, yeah. So so in the revamp to think about CNCF projects, I maintained the older input format, so it's in the README, but it doesn't have to just be things that start from landscape YAML. So, for example, if we wanted to point it at OpenSSF or Apache or arbitrary repos out in the world, the tool still supports that. You don't get all of the fact tables and analysis, perhaps, in the reporting, but it's still very much possible to just use arbitrary orgs and repos.
I want to make sure we also get to Jen's point.
So I'm done. That's it. That was my update.
Okay.
I just wanted to talk about the deadline because it's in the project. It's the 14th. And I didn't know if we wanted to extend that.
We should. It was completely arbitrary. I mean, right now the project is basically we three. And so I believe you should be able to just extend it. There's no hard deadline there. I still have some materials to read and review, and I want to do another wave of like focused searching and reading for CRA stuff. But as we suspected, there's not a content generation problem, I don't think. That's a deadpan joke. There's so much. So
cool. Yeah. Okay. I think maybe if we moved it back by like, I'm gonna like throw a date out there, a month. If maybe that would be a little bit more achievable.
I think that makes sense. What do you think, Evan?
I don't know how many people are going to be at KubeCon, but my understanding is that that's going to end on the 13th. So we could do it as the 14th, but if folks are at KubeCon, that's going to be effectively the same as the 7th, I think.
Yeah, I won't be there, unfortunately. I was hoping to be there, but I won't be in Atlanta. I am aiming for Amsterdam in the spring, but I thought about road tripping.
I mean, I'm fine with saying November 14th.
So the deadline right now actually is November 14th. I was actually suggesting we move it to December.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there might be some learnings from KubeCon as well. Like I always learn stuff. I'll be spending that week not in Atlanta, but I'll be, watching the videos and stuff as soon as they come out. So,
sounds good. I will be in Atlanta, so I can maybe bring back some of the things I learned from there.
Cool. Yeah, I must say that I still hold out hope that like in the next week I'm going to find this like treasure trove. Like maybe we'll like, using the security insight stuff or using some other thing, suddenly it will like unlock a big bucket of S-bombs. Like, oh, now we have 40 or 50 but
I suspect that you will find 40 or 50
yeah,
out of
out of the two,
out of the
230.
landscape.
Yeah, the 233, I think.
Yeah.
You think that's about okay?
I mean, I personally, I would be narrowing things to just the incubated and graduating projects.
Yeah. There's an interesting, yeah. So I started with just looking at the graduated data set and
Mhm.
kept coming up with like nothing. But when I expanded it,
But it shouldn't be nothing for
well,
the
no, it's
graduated
not,
project.
it's not nothing for the graduated projects. But like I was speaking like, oh, I'll just find them in the release artifacts. That'll be
Yeah.
straightforward. But I started thinking some of the newer projects that are in the sandbox, they're starting from a much more current point in time. So it could be that some of the things that older projects retrofit, newer projects just start with. I'm actually kind of curious to see how that pant shakes
But
out. Like,
I would start with the graduated and maybe the incubating projects. And gut feeling wise, given that they've had to pass security reviews and
mhm,
assessments and things like that, the SBOM number for those should be at
should be
least
up.
40 or 50%.
Yeah.
So if you're not hitting 40 or 50% on the graduated projects, either
Then
there's a big problem with the way we graduate projects, or
or
there's a
we're not.
problem in how
Mhm.
you're finding things.
Yeah. That's a good point. Some of the security metadata, some of the metadata rather in the landscape also is like the last security audit, or other things where, yeah.
So, like, you might look at the security assessments, which are all now in
Mhm.
CNCF TOC,
Yep. Exactly.
and
That's
just see if they have a section on S-bombs.
yeah, exactly. So,
But but if you do it for the graduated projects, you only have like 30 things to do.
right.
And
Mhm.
so you can feasibly do it by hand.
Exactly.
And once you've done that, you can take your learnings and you can try to expand them and see if that applies.
Yep.
And if it turns out that there's like a huge drop off or something else, then you can look into it. But you may find that rather than trying to data science your way into it real hard,
Yep.
that a little bit of manual exploration will tell you where to data science.
Yes. And in that same vein, I thought about making an S-bomb for the scanner tool itself, just because it might be a little, like what would I have to do to make an S-bomb and publish it? So that could
It
also
feels like
unlock
you're
things. But
trying really hard to avoid looking at the graduated projects, and I'm just
nope, I'll go look at
okay.
I'll prioritize this week. I didn't want to end up with, um, okay, here's a look at the ecosystem and a place to
Mhm.
start. And most of it was done by hand and on paper. And so therefore we can't scale this to the ecosystem, right? Without an inordinate kind of,
I mean, my
but,
experience is that you start with wallowing in that stuff
mhm,
and the specific cases, and then you learn how to generalize from your wallow.
yes,
And if you don't look at the specific cases first, it's really easy to get lost in places that don't matter,
yep,
like GitHub release artifacts.
yeah, yeah, yep. Um, yeah, and the release artifacts thing as of 2 weeks ago when we talked before, I kind of stopped looking through there. I mean, there's still some useful
Yeah.
data to be found there, but um, I think looking at how our project's built and yeah, cool. Okay, so I didn't have more than that for today. Um, if anyone wants to look at the tool, I can hold off on turning that draft PR into a real one, but it's like literally PR number one on that repo. And my work in progress branch was like 2 weeks old and now has like a pile of commits. So I might just merge that because
Yeah.
let's put it this way, I have not cut a release of the tool yet. It's just a hacky thing. So
You can just always just say run from main until you're ready to have something.
mhm.
It's not load bearing.
No, it's not. Yeah, no. Um, yeah, what's in main now was the first version of it that just was a little,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll merge this PR and then just have a run from main kind of model. Cool.
And once we have, 8 or 10 people all trying to run it, then absolutely, I can see releases and stuff like that. But
Oh, for the community demo, last question I have.
Yeah.
Since I've got you both here, what do you think are like the top 3 things that people on the tag, should I say tag SC, tag security and compliance? For those community demos, like they've kind of been since it's only 5 minutes, like what are like the top 1 to 3 things that you would think that audience wants to know the most? Would it be like, but I'll leave it open-ended.
You can go up to 15, just so you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think 5 is like, it has to be 5 to 15 for the
I see.
community demos. So
Yeah.
if you want to cover a little bit more ground, you can do that.
Yeah, I don't want to do like a my journey. Like are there, is it
I would
findings or is
start
it?
with the questions that I was asking of like, how many S-bombs have you found?
Mhm.
And then, go back through that to, hey, this is the stuff that's easy to find, and this is the stuff that's hard to find.
Okay.
And I think that, that chart of the stuff that you detect, and that's easy for you to detect is an interesting, side point on the, okay, well, we found, X S-bombs from Y projects, and we mostly find them using this pattern.
Yeah.
Or the answer is we mostly find them by hand, and there's no, normal way to do this. Good luck.
I kind of hope that I find a bunch of stuff using OCI. There's a sandbox project or
It's
2
great
that
to
are
hope.
around this.
Hope is
Yeah, I know.
wonderful. It keeps
But I
you
just
going.
mean like it would be great if we go like, we don't have a whole new distribution system for this, and it's introspectable and findable and all of that. So like quietly, I kind of have this hope that like a skill tree unlocks and it's like, oh, they're all there. Okay, cool. But thanks for the pointers to Security Insights and the .GitHub repos. I'll go start looking through those.
Interesting. Cloud Events has graduated but did not do a joint assessment. They only did a self-assessment.
Oh,
Who knows? It's fine.
Cloud Events has already graduated. Wow, I remember when that was entering the sandbox. It's cool. It's a cool project. Envelopes.
I participated in it in its beginning, and yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, should we return 18 minutes to everyone's day?
Yep.
All right. Have a great week, everybody.
You
Thanks.
too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.